thoughts with you this morning about why I don't believe in Santa anymore.
I don't either. I stopped believing in him when I was 5.
I come from a family with 6 kids, and my parents wanted their kids to believe in Jesus and Santa. You see? And so we were told that if we were good children, then Santa would give us good presents. See? And so every year, at the end of the year, we'd have to write a letter to Santa to tell him that we were good children. That was something that we did. We saw him on TV. We'd go to the shopping centre. We'd see him there. We believed in Santa. I believed in Santa. But as we grew up, we started to think for ourselves, and there were certain things that troubled me, like how come there are 3 Santas in the centre of the city? How come when I go to one shopping centre, there's one Santa, and then I go to another one, and there's a Santa, but he doesn't quite look the same? And I started to think about this, and I got to the point where I was not going to believe in Santa unless I saw him actually come down our chimney into our living room at our place. You see? Now my mother started to get a bit concerned about the fact that we were starting to get a bit shaky about our faith in Santa. And so what she started doing every Christmas was that before we were sent to bed, Christmas Eve, then she would show us that she was leaving a cup of tea and a piece of fruitcake for Santa next to the tree. And so in the morning, the first thing we would do is to go down to the tree, and sure enough, the cup had been emptied and there were crumbs on the plate. Santa has been here, you see. So we were pretty impressed by that, until one particular year, when we came down on Christmas Day and we saw the crumbs of the cake on the plate, and we saw the cup that was now empty, but there was my mother's lipstick on the cup. And we thought, this is a scam. We've been had. And that was the end. I said, that's it. I'm through with that. Sorry for all those who still believe in that. You see, we can't just go on what other people have said. You've got to have your own experience. You see? I've learned that having your own experience is so important in life, isn't it? And you can't rely on someone else's experience. As a teenager, in our area, there was a young guy called Mark Short. And he was true to his name, he wasn't very tall. And he looked pretty normal, but he had a reputation. They said, Mark Short, he's a bully. He is so tough. He is mean. And I'd look at him and say, he doesn't look that tough to me. Until one day I was walking through a park and I saw Mark Short beat up a big guy on his own and give him a real whipping. And I came away saying, boy, that guy is a brute. You see, things change when you have a personal experience. Without which, you kind of look at it and say, no, that's not possible. Not possible. You see, our faith in Jesus is like that. You see, the Bible says that faith comes from what you hear. But faith can't go anywhere unless you experience something yourself, and not just because you've heard it. Because when we grow up and we hear about Jesus, then we start looking around and say, the very people that told us about Jesus are not living it. They're hypocrites. The very people that say they believe in Jesus actually are just like us, the rest of us who don't. So what's the difference? And that's where the doubt starts to come in. And I tell you today, folks, I don't believe in Santa anymore, but I believe in Jesus.
Amen.
I do. And why do I believe in Jesus? Well, because with him, it's not a hoax. It's not a scam. What he has promised actually does happen. It works. When you ask him to forgive you for all the wrong and bad things you've done, he does. When you cry out to God to get free of your addictions, and you're prepared to be serious, He sets you free.
Yeah, that's
Right? When you want to give you wisdom and you ask God for wisdom, you become a smarter person. It works. When you say, God, take away all this hate and resentment I have in my heart towards this person and that person and that person, and you say it sincerely, He takes it away and replaces it with love.
Amen.
It works. When you cry out to be free of your fears, He puts in your heart peace. Can't do without peace and enjoy your life. And if you trust in Him, you'll discover that He's trustworthy. There's no scam with Jesus, folks. It's not a hoax. It's not a fairy tale. It's not fake news. It's not an episode of Home and Away. It's real. It's all true. He did come from heaven. He was born of a virgin. He worked miracles. It's true. He told the most amazing stories. He died for the crimes of others, and He rose from the dead. It's all true. There are hundreds of witnesses who would be prepared to testify in court that they saw Jesus after He died. He was resurrected. He actually came down my chimney and came into my heart.
Yeah.
Santa never did that. Santa, I keep telling you that that's what he does. He never did it. I keep telling you that he brings presents. It wasn't him. It was never him that did it. There's always other people that did it for him. It was never him. It was a hoax. But with Jesus, I mean, it's Jesus. Everything He says actually does happen, even if you haven't experienced it. So there is just one last question that I'd like to put to you. If we can't trust Santa, and we can believe in Jesus, this is the question. Can Jesus believe in you?
So we can.
Can Jesus believe in you?
Of course He does.
You see, one of the things that marked the 3.5 years that we were on the earth was that a lot of people followed Him, and then a lot of people deserted Him. It happened. Many of His followers, when things started to go off, when the teaching started to get a bit harder, when suddenly He wasn't riding a wave of power and miracles, suddenly people sort of drifted away. The followers became deserters. You see, and at the height of people leaving Him, I'm telling you folks, if I'm talking like this, it's because people leave Him today. People who once believed in Jesus for different reasons, sometimes because of the hypocrisy of others, sometimes because they got mixed up in the wrong crowd or got sucked into temptation, and they drifted away or walked away. One day, it was at a time when Jesus was really losing a lot of His disciples. He turned to Peter and He said, "So what are you going to do, Peter? Are you going to be like the rest of them? Are you going to leave me? Are you going to desert?" And Peter turned around and he said, "What are you talking about? What are you talking about leaving? I mean, where on earth would I go?" I said, "You're the only one who's ever been able to tell me the truth. You're the only one who's talked about a life after this one." You see, it's one of the greatest statements that Peter's ever made. And Jesus was able to believe in Peter, even though he was imperfect, even though he messed up, but yet underneath, Peter was a guy who really did believe in Jesus, and Jesus believed in him. And then in the end, this man that was imperfect, that failed, yet at the end of his life, he was the most remarkable man who gave his life for Jesus. Yes, Jesus could believe in Peter, even though other people didn't. Can Jesus believe in you, my friend? There was an 8-year-old boy called Billy. And he loved the Brisbane Broncos. I'm sorry if you don't come from Australia or Brisbane, you might not know who the Brisbane Broncos are. But you need to have a more rounded education if you don't know who they are. Brisbane Broncos are our team. Unless you go.
I'll pray for you.
This kid, 8-year-old Billy, he loved the Brisbane Broncos. And he had posters up of all the Brisbane Broncos stars on his bedroom wall. And for a special treat, his dad would just take him to Suncorp Stadium for a match, so he could see his heroes. I mean, he just loved the Brisbane Broncos. Every week, when he would get his pocket money, he would put most of it aside in a money box. Because what he wanted more than anything else was to get an Adam Reynolds signed jersey. Oh, that was it. And so every year, every week, he'd get his pocket money and put some money aside, most of it aside, so that he needed $100 to buy the Adam Reynolds signed jersey. He was determined. And every week, after he got his money, he would count how much money there was in his money box. And after a few months, he nearly had enough. His parents were Christians. And they would go as a family to church on a Sunday. And one particular Sunday, before the kids were released to go to their children's church program, the pastor made an announcement that the church really did need quite a bit of renovation. And so there was a building fund. And next Sunday there would be a special offering for the building fund. Kids were released. They never thought anything more of it. But throughout that whole week, Billy looked at his money box. He knew that the jersey, the Adam Reynolds signed jersey, was now within reach. It was only a question of a few more weeks, that's it. But something was tugging at his heart. On a Sunday morning, he got up out of bed, got ready for church, put his things in his bag, and took his money box and put it in his bag. When he got to church, he found the pastor, and he said, "Pastor, I want to give you this for the work of the church." He pulled out of his bag the money box and gave it to him. And it was the very first gift that was made for the building fund. Actually, there was no Adam Reynolds jersey. His name was probably not Billy. I added that to make up my own parable. But that did happen to me. And one Sunday morning, a little boy in the church came up to me and he pulled out of his bag a money box and he said, "Here, Pastor, I want to give this to the church building." And it was all that he had. All that he had. And so I looked at him. I remember so well that conversation. I could see where I was as I had that conversation with him. And I said to him, so what do you want to be when you grow up? And he looked at me with his big eyes and he said, "I want to be a big Christian." I looked down at him and I said, "Listen, mate, you already are a big Christian." Could Jesus believe in that young boy?
Of course he did.
Of course he could. Of course he could. Could Jesus believe in you today? Could he believe in you? I don't know who you are, what you've done, where you come from. I guess like Peter, there'd be plenty of reasons why you'd sort of think Jesus could never believe in me. But hey, why don't you give him a chance to believe in you today? to believe that there's something good in you that can respond to him, that there's something deep down that most people don't know about, probably nobody either. But it's there. And if only you would have the courage to let it come to the surface and let the real you, the person of the heart, begin to express itself, then you would even begin to believe in yourself, in what Jesus could do for you.